So, good morning, everyone. My name is Abhay Singh, and I welcome you all in today's video analysis of the Hindu. Today is 27th of June 2024, and we will start today's video analysis with the first news headline for the day. And the first and the foremost important headline for the day is that the new Lok Sabha Speaker has been elected. The new Lok Sabha Speaker has been elected, and who is the new Speaker of the Lok Sabha? So, the new for the 18th Lok Sabha. The new speaker for the 18th Lok Sabha is Mr. Om Birla. Mr. Om Birla is the speaker of 18th Lok Sabha. He has been elected as the speaker of the Lok Sabha on. He has been elected as the speaker of Lok Sabha on Wednesday, that is 26th of January, 26th of June 2024. Now moving on to the next important news headline for the day, and next important news headline for the day is that as CBI arrests him, Kejriwal withdraws petition from the Supreme Court. So the Central Bureau of Investigation formally arrested Delhi Chief Minister Mr. Arvind Kejriwal in the excise policy case on Wednesday and was granted 3 days to interrogate him in its custody. So basically, CBI, Central Bureau of Investigation, had got the custody of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, who is being arrested, who was previously arrested in the excise policy case. And now the CBI has taken the custody of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, and now he will be questioned by the Central Bureau of Investigation in the excise policy case. Now, US criticizes the Indian report on religious freedom. So there is a criticism by the United States. So what is this particular report? Let's delve into this particular report. The United States, in a report published on Wednesday, offered a rare criticism of close partner India on religious freedom, while also voicing alarm over rising bigotry worldwide against both Jews and Muslims. So basically, the United States has, given a rare criticism of close partner India on religious freedom. So basically, this statement by the US government is given on the religious freedom. So this is one important news headline for us to understand. But we should also know that why US is continuously trying to poke his nose in the Indian affairs, which is not good for a sovereign country in itself. So this is the second headline for the day. Now moving on to the third headline for the day, and the third headline for the day is third headline for the 27th of June 2024. Third headline for the 27th June 2024 is now. The death toll the death toll in the hooch tragedy in Kallakurichi district rose to 63 on Wednesday, with four more persons dying in the hospital in Salem and Pudujuri. So basically, there was a hooch tragedy, and there has the total number of deaths reached to 63. Till date, 63 persons have been died due to spurious liquor which was consumed by them. A total of 88%, including three women, undergoing treatment. As many as 74%, including two women and a trans person, have been discharged so far. A five-member team of the National Commission for Scheduled Caste and three-member National Commission for Women team visited Karunapuram, the epicenter of the hooch tragedy, on Wednesday. Lax attitude. The NSC's team was led by the Chairman Kishore Makwana. He told reporters that the sale of hooch had been prevented at Karunapuram for long, and no action is taken by the police and the authorities concerned. So there was a hooch tragedy, and the total number of deaths is reached to 63. Now the different organs, now excuse me, now the different organs of the government are throwing blame on each other. So there is no specific or the dedicated solution for this problem as of now. But again, this is a big tragedy. 63 people have lost their lives till date. Now another important news is coming from the Bangalore, where a special court has rejected the bail petition of former Hassan MP Mr. Prajwal Ravana, who was accused in a sexual abuse case. And there are multiple cases filed against him. Multiple cases have been filed against him, and the special court has, and for the same reason, the special court has rejected the bail petition of the incumbent or the ex-MLA of Hassan constituency, Mr. Prajwal Ravana. His bail application has been rejected by the special court. Now moving on to the next important news headline for the day, and next important news headline is very important for the examination point of view. This particular news item is very important, and we will We will cover it. We'll cover it in quite brief. So let's start the news headline. Yeah. South India's first and the country's largest leopard safari was inaugurated by the Karnataka Environment Minister Ishwar Khandre on Wednesday at the Bangharata Biological Park. So what is this news that South India's first and the country's largest leopard safari. So leopard safari, and it is country's largest leopard safari. And where this safari located at, this particular safari is located at the Banar Biological Park. Banar Biological Park. As per the Central Zoo Authority guidelines for safaris, an area of 20 hectares had been demarcated. So a total area of 20 hectares have been demarcated as well, and this particular area has been fenced as well to prevent the collision, or to prevent the confrontation of leopard and the human livings around that particular area. That's why this area of 20 hectares have been fenced. Now 8 leopards have been released on the safari in the open forest area. According to the park officials, Banarghata is a home to a good population of free-ranging leopard. The scientific name of free-ranging leopard is Panthera pallidus, and highlighting these predators is vital. The facility has been created at a cost of rupees 4.5 crore. The leopard safari area is made up of undulated during terrain with the natural rocky outcrops and semi-deciduous forest. So now this is one important news coming all the way from Bangalore, it's Karnataka, that South India's first and the country's first leopard safari was inaugurated by the Karnataka Environment Minister Ishwar Khandre on Wednesday at the Banarghata Biological Park. So where is India's largest leopard safari has been inaugurated? So India's largest leopard safari has been inaugurated at Banarghata Biological Park. This has a total area of 20 hectares. So this is one important news coming from the Karnataka. Now moving on to the next important news headline for the day, and the next important news headline for the day is, so there was a death of a worker. So there was the death of an Indian worker in Italy. So, and after the death of that particular worker, the protests started in the whole of Italy, demanding to end every kind of slavery. To demand The demand began, and the demands were to end every form of slavery. To end every form of slavery in from Italy. So India on Wednesday asked Italy to take prompt action against the responsible for the death of a 31-year-old Indian worker who died after he was dumped on the road without medical assistance by his employer after his arm was severed by a heavy farm machinery. So this news is coming from Italy, where an Indian worker whose arm was severed, whose arm was severed with a heavy farm machine. He was left on the road, and he succumbed to his injuries, and subsequently he died. And after the death of that Indian, there was the protest in the entire Italy demanding to end each and every kind of slavery. Now, moving on to the next news headline for the day, and the next news headline is India looking at potential institutional reforms amid Pannun issue. US official. Now, India is looking at a potential institutional reforms against the backdrop of a Pannun issue and alleged assassination attempts. US Deputy Secretary of State Kurt M. Campbell said on Wednesday, adding that US seeks accountability from the Indian government and has consistently asked for updates on the committee investigating the matter. So basically, this statement is given by the Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell, and in this particular statement, he has said that he is demanding accountability from the Indian government, and he's also consistently asking for the updates related to the investigation in that particular matter. We have had constructive dialogue with India on this topic, and they have been responsive to our concerns. What he also stated that he is having a constructive dialogue with India related to the Pannun issue, and he's also getting clear responses from the Indian sides. Now, we made clear that we seek accountability from the government of India and we have consistently asked for updates on the Indian committee. We raised the issue directly with the Indian government at the most senior level between our two countries, Mr. Campbell said. He also made a statement that he raised this particular issue at the highest level possible. The issue is directly related with the issues directly with the Indian government. The US government is directly discussing this particular issue with the Indian government. So there is a direct communication between the Indian government and the US government. And the US government is basically, saying that the India has been consistent. India has been consistent in providing a response in providing response related to Pannum issue. So this is another important news headline for us to understand that the US government or the US Deputy Secretary of State Mr. Kurt M. Campbell has given this statement that where he was demanding accountability from the Indian government and is also consistently asking for the updates related to the committee investigating that particular matter, which is Pannun issue. So in this particular news headline, only these much things are important. Now moving on to the next important news headline for the day, and the next important news headline for the day is. So the Supreme Court calls cutting of valuable trees in Delhi a brazen act. Now, the Supreme Court on Wednesday found that the Delhi Development Authority (DDA), an autonomous body under the union government, to unearth information or official record to shed light on whether Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Mr. V.K. Saxena, ordered the cutting of valuable trees in the protected ridge area as shared disingenuity. So basically, Supreme Court of India has called upon Delhi Development Authority and they have asked DDA to provide information whether the illegal cutting of trees which took place as the protected area of ridge, whether that felling of trees was ordered by the LG of Delhi, Mr. V.K. Saxena, or not. So this news is related to environment where the Supreme Court has asked DDA to, present the record related to the illegal felling of trees, illegal cutting of trees in ridge area. So moving on to the next important news headline for the day. Next important news headline for the day is. So this article is very, very important for us to understand. We are living in a democracy, and in a democracy, the role of opposition becomes very important. So this particular article is related to the role of leader of opposition in a democracy, and the title of this particular article is Opposition's Larger Demography, Leader of Opposition's Big Responsibility. So, as the title suggests of this particular article, that the responsibility of leader of opposition is very big, and so on this particular note, we'll start this particular article. So, yeah, so moving on. The 2024 general election is historic in as much as it resulted in the numerically largest opposition in the Lok Sabha. It is perhaps the largest in the history of the House, with the opposition securing over 234 seats. One also saw the debate. Now, this is also important to us to understand that this is almost there are almost 234 seats with the opposition in Lok Sabha. So this is, a quite a strong opposition, and the strong opposition is the soul of the democracy. So this is very important for the Indian democracy that the opposition has 234 seats. On the leader of opposition come alive. In the 16th and the 17th Lok Sabha, there was no leader of opposition because under a direction of the speaker issued in the 1950s, in order to get recognition as a party in the house, it should have a minimum of 10% members in that particular house. So basically, direction 121, which is issued by which was issued by which was issued by speaker in 1950s. As per this direction, a party has to secure a minimum 10% seats, which is 54, to be a leader, to be a party in opposition. So basically, this was a mandatory rule as per Direction 121, which was issued by the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. As per this direction, that a parties have to secure a minimum of 10% of the seats in that particular house to to claim itself as a party in opposition. But there was a flaw. There was a certain drawback of this particular rule, that in the 16th and the 17th Lok Sabha, no single party was able to secure a minimum of 10% seats. That's why there was no formal leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, because each and every party failed to get 10% minimum 10% of seats in the 16th and 17th Lok Sabha. Now, moving on, Parliament enacted the salary and allowances of the leaders of opposition in Parliament Act 1977, which particularly defined the term of the opposition. Now, in 1977, the term leader of opposition was defined for the first time. In the year 1977, the term leader of the opposition was defined for the first time, and what was the definition which was provided by the leaders of opposition in Parliament Act 1977? Now, salary and allowances of leaders of opposition in Parliament Act 1977 provides for the definition of leader of opposition, and as per this definition, the leader in that house of the party in opposition to the government having the greatest numerical strength and recognized as such by the chairman of the Council of States or the Speaker of the House of the People, as the case may be. The definition shows that in order to recognize a person, now the definition shows that in order to recognize a person as leader of opposition, there are two conditions that need to be fulfilled. First, the party should be numerically the biggest one in opposition to the government. So now this is the first requirement. This is the first requirement. And what is the first requirement? That the party should be numerically the biggest one in opposition to the government. Second, that the party should be recognized by the speaker as a party. So basically, these are the two requirements which are important or which are necessary for a particular party to be a leader to be a party in the opposition. So what are these two requirements? First, the party should be numerically the biggest one in opposition to the government. So basically, the first requirement is that it should be the biggest party numerically, biggest party numerically. And what does this mean? Biggest party numerically, that after the ruling party, whichever party will have maximum strength will fulfill the first condition. to be a opposition. And the second criteria is that the party should be recognized as a party by the speaker. Now moving on. As mentioned earlier, the speaker can recognize a party as such if only it has 10% of the strength of the house. In other words, only a party which has 10% of the strength of the house can put forth its claim to the post of leader of opposition. Under the direction cited, a party which has less than 10% members shall be categorized as less than 10% members shall be categorized as a group which cannot claim the post of leader of opposition. Thus, the Congress Parliamentary Party, which had only 52 members in 2019, and in the Lok Sabha, two less than 54, which is the threshold. So basically, a party has to secure a minimum of 54 seats in the Lok Sabha to be an opposition. But this particular requirement was not fulfilled in the year 2014 and 2019 in the 16th and 17th Lok Sabha, and due to the same reason there was no opposition in the Lok Sabha. Now moving on. Now moving on. All political parties, irrespective of the numbers of members that they have in the houses, are parties. The term group is not recognized by the schedule. So, in the tune with the schedule, necessary changes in the Leaders of Opposition Act should have been made to enable the Speaker to recognize the leader of the largest opposition party in the House, irrespective of whether it has 10% members or not. So basically, as per the 10th schedule, some necessary changes were needed. And what are those necessary changes? The necessary changes were basically, if political parties, irrespective of the numbers of members that they have in the houses, are parties, the term group is not recognized by the schedule. So, in tune with the schedule, necessary changes in the Leader of the Opposition Act should have been made to enable the Speaker to recognize the leader of the largest opposition party in the House, irrespective of whether it has 10% members or not. So, basically, what this particular article is suggesting, that the new changes have been made. The new changes should have been made as per the 10th schedule, and by making those changes, it would have been easier for the speaker of Lok Sabha it would have been easier for the speaker of the Lok Sabha to recognize a party as opposition, even if it fails to secure a 10% of seats. So basically, if the necessary changes would have been made in the particular directions, then it would have been easier for the Speaker of the Lok Sabha to elect any party, or to elect any party which has not secured a minimum of 10% seats as the opposition. So this was something which should have been improved, but this is still to be done. Now moving on to the next important part of this particular article. In the British parliamentary tradition, he is called the Prime Minister in waiting. So basically, leader of opposition in the Westminster system of the governance is called the Prime Minister in waiting, and he's the one who king turns down the incumbent government. So basically, uh, the shadow cabinet is formed under the leadership of the leader of the opposition, who will be called the shadow prime minister. According to this tradition, the shadow cabinet scrutinizes the policies and actions of the government and offers alternative policy. So basically, what important observation has been made in the Westminster form of government, that there is the concept of shadow cabinet and the shadow prime minister. Leader of opposition act as shadow prime minister, and there are members who act as the cabinet, act as the ministers, shadow ministers, and those ministers and and the shadow prime minister scrutinizes the government policies and actions and offer them alternative policies and the solutions as well. Now, although we have adopted a Westminster system, the practice of forming a shadow cabinet does not exist in the parliament or state legislature. Now, Although we follow the Westminster form of government, but we do not have the practice of following the shadow cabinet rule, and the shadow cabinet does not exist at the parliament level, and also it does not exist at the state legislative level. The post of the leader of opposition in Indian parliament has been a statutory position since 1977. However, this statute does not define the functions of the leader of the opposition. So now in India, this particular in India, officially this post came into existence in 1977 when the Salary and Allowances of Leader of Opposition in Parliament Act 1977 was passed. So this particular act has defined the term leader of opposition, but this particular term has actually not defined the functions of the leader of opposition. So in India, it is very much clear that who is a leader of opposition, but it is not clear that what will be the functions of leader of opposition. It is still very unclear what are the functions of leader of opposition. So this is not defined in the act which was enacted in the year 1977. So basically, in the act which was enacted in the year 1977 defines only the term leader of opposition. It does not define the term. Sorry, it does not define what are the functions of leader of opposition. Now moving on. In past 10 years, the Lok Sabha has seen a rather lean opposition which could not amount any serious challenge to the government. A large majority enjoyed by the ruling party and it is intimidatory posture overawed the opposition which has felt helpless. But the 2024 elections have brought about a sea change in the political atmosphere and the demography of the house. It is perhaps for the first time that the Lok Sabha has such a huge number in the opposition with over 234 members in the opposition benches. The house is almost evenly divided. This has no doubt boosted the morale of the opposition to a great extent can influence the running of the house. It would be reflected in the admission of questions, the content of the answers, debate of bills, general debates such as the debate on the motion of thanks, urgent matter of public interest, admission of adjournment motions, and the reference of bills to the committees for the detailed security, to name a few. So basically, these are the few functions which will be performed by the opposition. And now these are the basic functions which are the heart and soul of any democracy. And what are these rule and what are these functions? It would be reflected in the admission of questions, the content of the answers, debates on the bill, journal debates such as the debate on the motion of thanks, urgent matter of public interest, admission of adjournment motion, reference of bills to the committee for detailed scrutiny, to name a few. So these are the few tasks which will be performed by the leader of opposition or the opposition as a whole, and these tasks are very necessary for the any particular democracy. And one should understand why we were saying that India need a strong opposition for our democracy. Why? Because in a democracy, role of opposition becomes very important. Sometimes it acts as a torch bearer, sometimes it acts as a torch bearer of the development. Why torch bearer of the development? Because they continuously scrutinize the policies and actions taken by the government in power. So with this way, these 234 members will help in help in deciding the fate of our country, because now the government policies will be scrutinized carefully as opposition has close to 234 members. This will affect the development in a long run and in a positive way. The leader of the opposition should not be able to capture this new mood of the opposition and present his views in the house in the most effective way. The leader of opposition of the 18th Lok Sabha has the wondrous task of serving the unity of the opposition at all costs. So now basically, now who is the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha? So Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is the speaker, is the leader of opposition. And what is the opposition in India? India bloc. And Mr. Rahul Gandhi will act as not act. He has been appointed as the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, and who is the leader of the House? Mr. Narendra Modi. Now moving on. So another important news headline for us to understand, not this is one important fact that we have to understand that on 25th January 1975, on 25th January 1975, emergency was imposed 25th January 1975, sorry 25th June 1975, emergency was imposed and on 25th June 1975, 50 years have completed for this unfortunate event which took place in Indian democracy. And this particular day is also marked as Black Day because the democratic principles were, given no value when this particular were given no value when the emergency was imposed. And the emergency was there for the almost 21 months, beginning from 25th June 1975 to March 21, 1977. These 21 months were, also often termed as the Black Black period or the Black era. Now moving on to the next important news headline for the day, and the next important news headline for the day is reading the rocks to improve India's geological literacy. So we should understand the meaning of term morphology. The understanding of the term morphology is very important for us to understand, for us to know. And what is the meaning of the term morphology? So the meaning of the term morphology is the study of form or things. What is the meaning of the term morphology? The study of form or things. Now moving on. Now moving on. So Carlos Alcaraz from Spain is a tennis player. He's a lawn tennis player. He became the first, or he became the youngest player to win, to win a title on the all the three surfaces: hard grass, and clay. So basically, Spanish player, Spanish player Carlos Alcaraz became the youngest player to win a Grand Slam on all three courts, which is hard grass and clay. Now moving on. Now moving on the next important headline for the day. And what is the next important headline for the day? Next important headline for the day is so there's nothing important in the news in the section, so we can skip this particular part as of now. Once we find something relevant in this particular section, we'll definitely cover it. But as of now, there is nothing important related, which is important for examination point of view. So we'll leave all these news headlines, and we'll stick only to the news headlines which are important for us to understand. Now, this is very important for us to understand. This is about the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So we'll start this particular news headline for the day. So NATO's 32 nations on Wednesday appointed outgoing Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. Mark Rutte. Mark Rutte has been appointed as the next chief of NATO. He has been appointed as the next chief of NATO, and he will take charge from 1st October 2024. Who is the current head of NATO? Current head of NATO is Mr. Jens Stoltenberg. Mr. Jens Stoltenberg is the current head of the NATO, and who is going to be the next head of NATO? He's the Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. So let's note down a few things about NATO. Was it NATO? North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It has total 32 members. It has total 32 members Sweden became the 32nd nation to join NATO. NATO was established or the formed in the year 1949. It has 12 founding members and it is headquartered at Brussels, Belgium. Finland, which share a 830 mile which share a border of 830 miles with Russia, was the 31st nation to join NATO. So this is one important item, a news item for us to understand, and this is basically related to NATO. NATO is very important for us to understand. Why NATO is very important? Because of the current ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, and the West is and the continuous support of West to the Ukraine. So the role of NATO becomes very important for us to understand. Now moving on to the next important news headline for the day. So basically, this news was related to the Myanmar and the opium production. So basically, in the year 2023, Myanmar has become the largest producer of opium in the world, surpassing the Afghanistan. Now moving on to the next sports section for today, and there is no important news headline for us in the sports section. So with this, we have completed the news analysis of 27th of June 2024, and I hope you guys have understood each and everything which is important for us to understand. Now coming on to the main important thing related to the newspaper is that in the newspaper we have to cover the newspaper with the examination point of view. अगर हम लोग examination point of view से newspaper नहीं cover करेंगे तो आपको हमेशा newspaper बहुत लंबा लगेगा. आपको ये चीज़ समझनी होगी कि what are the needs of your particular examination और आप अपनी need को cater करने के लिए सिर्फ newspaper को आप लोग पढ़ेंगे. ठीक है. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग टुडेज वीडियो एनालिसिस. अगर आप लोगों को कोई भी दिक्कत या डाउट होता है तो आप लोग प्लीज़ अपने क्वेश्चंस पंच इन कर सकते हैं. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग टुडेज वीडियो एनालिसिस and I hope you find this particular video knowledgeable and insightful. Thank you so much.